Hello, welcome to PODnas. This is a sports show with some Southern and Cajun flair. I'm Daniel Hawks. This is Jared Roser. Today we are going to preview week 9 of college football, week 8 in the NFL, maybe a little NBA, maybe some other stuff that's going on. We don't know. Let's get into it. Jared, how you doing today?
Good. I figured you'd probably want to get into some basketball at some point, so it's another two-cupper type
Hey,
day. Ret to go. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. It's one of my favorite time in sports is because all the sports are happening. All the sports are sporting at once, and it's sportiful. I mean, I just love it so much. Let's even give a World Series pick. Why don't we? Before the end of it, we'll get out of here. I'm going Dodgers.
Yeah, let's shock the world. Dodgers pick. I don't want it to happen.
Yeah, but I still fall on the Kendrick side of the Kendrick Drake beef, so I gotta go. I can't go Toronto.
Good.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. All right. Hey, let's get into this because there's a bunch going on this week. Before we kind of get into the PODnas Pick 7, though, I kind of wanted to go over the news from this week in the SEC. Billy Napier let go out of Florida. And this Florida team was definitely underperforming under him. I don't think that's anything to say, but from all accounts and from everything that I've heard, players loved him in the locker room and people around the program loved him as a person. It just results on the field we're not there. And, that can kind of end your job really quick, and especially in an SEC environment. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think it has any effect on LSU or, Ole Miss or another team in the SEC? Because Florida's going to be out looking, and, I'm maybe leading the question a little bit here. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, when you mentioned Ole Miss and LSU, I don't think Florida's coming to poach Brian Kelly, so
no,
don't worry about that. Yeah, but yeah, I mean it's been a pretty tumultuous SEC week coaching wise, and we're obviously about to talk a lot about the Napier stuff, but a lot going on in baseball too. Just like to make sure that we mention Tony Vitello's leaving Tennessee Volunteers baseball program to go manage the Giants, and at Florida, Kevin O'Sullivan is on a leave of absence. I don't really know details on that or what to make of that.
Oh, wow.
But for baseball fans, a lot to watch. But we're football season. Billy Napier's a guy that obviously led the Cajuns to a historic run of success for that program in recent years. And everything you said about people, including his players, loving him and all that, like certainly tracks. He's always been awesome to deal with, and I think really good dude, really good football coach overall, but obviously did not play out the way that Florida wanted it to. And I always look at that Florida athletic department, and I'll play a game with you here briefly because I know you like games.
I love games.
So since Steve Spurrier, 2.5 decades ago, can you name the amount of Florida football coaches that have coached and completed 4 or more seasons?
Urban Meyer.
Yeah, that'd be it. You win the game. And so they've always been fairly quick to make a move, even going back decades, and obviously moves just get made more quickly across the board now. But Billy Napier has been given about as much time as Florida ever gives anyone to try and turn it around, unless you're Urban Meyer or Steve Spurrier. And so I don't think it's a surprise. Like his seat had been hot for a couple of years now.
Yeah. And it was scorching the first 4 or 5 weeks, last 4 or 5 weeks. So
yeah. And from a person standpoint, you hate to see it. Like I don't like seeing people lose jobs. But at the same time, like the guys get paid a ton and have the big buyouts for a reason, and they know the deal, and that there's an expectation, particularly in the SEC, of high level success at a program like Florida, where a lot of resources are provided to that football coach to have that success.
I kind of want to go a little bit against this. I think Florida has a false sense of where they are and who they have to recruit against all the time. And I mean, they have Miami, they got Georgia, in there. They have Florida. I mean, maybe Florida State, but there's a lot that Florida program has to go against. And also, we really haven't seen them in the national media like spotlight as a top tier program or team since Urban Meyer was there, and that's early 2000s. And most of these kids that are in the program were born then. So
Yeah.
we were, and for somewhat, I guess you could maybe say this about LSU, but LSU has seen major success a lot more recently than Florida. So I kind of want to see, like, what do you think the expectation should be for this next coach? Because one thing that I was going to say, and it does kind of pull back into Louisiana, is Tulane again needs to be on John Summerall watch.
Yeah. And
I feel like it's a very valid,
we're going to be,
especially with him being like, I want to pull my hair out. You guys we get the wins, but I may age like Obama in office. So
yeah. And look, I mean, Summerall saying that is not a sense of him being unhappy with where he's at. He loves where he's at. And I think he's a coach that we're, unfortunately for Tulane fans, going to be on Summerall watch until a move is made, whether that's this year. And it seems like there's just more and more attention from around the country this year as, more jobs come open, or, whether he ends up sticking at Tulane for longer and it's a later date move. But I think he's super happy with where he's at, the program he has, the buy-in he has from the university and the community and all those things. And that if he's going to make a jump, it's going to be a place where he feels like there's a level of alignment to a degree where he can go compete for a national championship. And so he's going to have an opportunity, because he likes where he's at right now, to be kind of particular and picky about what opportunity he goes and takes at some point.
I mean, I think really him and the three American League, American Conference coaches, between him, the USF coach, Alex Gulash, Galish, Glush,
Galesh.
Galesh, and Ryan Silverfield over at Memphis. I think between the three of them, they will have, people seriously at least looking at them because of the success that those three guys have had at these programs this year and, previously.
Yeah. Yeah. All those dudes do a great job. And obviously, I mean, I've had opportunities to have like minor interactions and more so just watch what the other guys do because of the places they've been, including Silverfield now for a couple of years at Memphis and coming down to Tulane and winning that game last year and all those things. But I've been closest to the Summerall situation and think that all of the hype around other programs that want him to come be their coach is certainly well founded, because he is just top level dude. I have a lot of confidence that he's going to be successful at Tulane with this program, or wherever he is to end up at any given point. And so he's going to be interesting to watch. You alluded to the Ole Miss dynamic. I think Lane Kiffin is an obvious one for Florida to have some interest in, and for Lane to potentially have some interest in Florida. I'm interested to see where exactly Lane's head is at with just like coaching job opportunity dynamics moving forward now, as he's continued to, I don't think I'm saying this, I think he's said it, but like mature and view things a little bit differently as he's gotten a little bit older in his coaching career.
And then goes to Florida, just another big FU to Tennessee.
Like I think he's going to
really mature, but also,
but I think Florida is a place that just objectively more people would say that there is a higher ceiling for consistent contention than what you see at Ole Miss. There are more resources there. You're in a bigger state that is as talent rich as any state in the country, and there's a lot of financial buy-in from the folks around that program. I don't think that him making that move would have to be viewed as anything other than a step up in terms of the coaching spot. But at the same time, I think Lane and his crew has done a good job of really building that Ole Miss situation forward in huge steps over the last few years, and I also think that he seems to really appreciate where he's at and has kind of made that a home and a nice fit for him. And so I'm interested to see exactly how he views some of these opportunities and which opportunities and what number it will take to pull him out of Ole Miss.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. I mean, between that and Penn State, like there are just some bigger program jobs that are going to be available. And Florida, with having just gone with obviously Billy Napier coming from UL. Uh, uh, I I don't know if I see them going small again. See them maybe trying to reach for something big. Maybe something happens with Lincoln Riley over at USC because that seems a little bit of in iffy water. Like we'll just, we'll kind of see. But it's going to be this coaching carousel this offseason is going to be super interesting.
Yeah, and that's what I worry about. Mentioning Summerall again. I think he really likes being in New Orleans and really likes the Tulane program and all those things, but there are going to be a lot of openings and a lot of programs willing to throw a lot of money around to come coach at some pretty solid landing spots. And so it's going to be a conversation that we're talking about pretty steadily. And for the Florida job in particular, you mentioned at the beginning just kind of what I think the expectations are for that program or whoever is the successor to Billy Napier there. And there is a lot of competition in Florida. You have Florida State and Miami right there in state. And then you mentioned Georgia and all these other programs that dip into the state. But there is a ton of buy-in and resource to that Florida job. And there is a ton of talent in Florida. As much as we talk about LSU feasting on the Louisiana talent and the benefits of not having another Power 4 program in state and all those things, Florida is one of those states that produces talent at the same sort of rate, but is a much bigger state. And there's a reason why programs like a Miami can almost just live off of just South Florida, not even the entire state, because there's so much talent up and down that state in a bigger, more populous state that there's a lot of talent to go around. And you may have a hard time being a national championship contender if you find yourself being like third or fourth fiddle in recruiting Florida. But if you're competitive recruiting Florida as a Florida Gators program, then there is potential for you to at least be better than what they've been in recent years, to be making the playoffs. And then once you get that momentum going, all of a sudden, hey, we're the SEC team in Florida and we're competing at a notable national level. And it becomes kind of a snowball effect on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, absolutely. We will keep you updated with what goes on with that, especially if it has to do with someone down in Tulane or thereabouts. One other thing before we kind of get into the PODnas Pick 7, just of note, Louisiana Tech lost to the Hilltoppers on Tuesday night in an overtime game, a game that they really controlled everything except the score. They had more total yards, they had more total passing yards. They were just about the same in rushing. They had more yards per play, but they, don't win.
Yeah. They were down 27 at half and then dominated the second half to, end up with those final statistics that you mentioned. They obviously shut out Western Kentucky in the third and fourth quarters and were able to get some things going offensively, force overtime, go up 27-20 in that overtime. But then Western Kentucky answers, goes for two and the win and gets it. And that touchdown too was a Catholic High Baton Rouge guy, George Hart III, who gets into the end zone for his second time of the night for Western Kentucky. And so kind of a bittersweet night for me, at least, to watch Louisiana Tech lose. But George, who was awesome to cover during his high school career, to see him have some success back in the home state.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are not going to, in our PODnas Pick 7, we're not going to have a ULM or UL on there, but they do have games this weekend. ULM plays Southern Miss. UL plays Troy. If that sounds familiar from last week, it's because the opponents just flip-flopped. They did a little, they had their wires crossed. So let's get into this PODnas Pick 7. We've already done 20 minutes of coaching carousel talk, which was riveting, I'm sure, for everyone. So let's get into this first game of our PODnas Pick 7. As we always do, we start with LSU. LSU, Texas A&M. 6:30 ABC. Texas A&M is number 3 in the country, and they are atop the SEC with Alabama, having not lost a conference game. LSU is somewhat reeling if you talk to any LSU fan. How do you feel about this game? I
The
don't feel good about facing another mobile quarterback after what Diego Pavia just did to this LSU defense.
Yeah, I mean, if you talk to an LSU fan right now, it's going to sound like this. This is just kind of a default for me, but the Sixers fans after the Ben Simmons meltdown in the playoffs, where they're just like, "Get out of my city, you crumb bum," and shouting at any camera that would take them. That's the energy around Baton Rouge and LSU Twitter right now. Is everyone is just fed up beyond belief and lashing out. Particularly at Brian Kelly, but really in almost every which way. There's just, an overflowing of frustration.
Like,
I don't know where you're going, so I'm looking forward to it.
I listened to a quote from his press conference when he was talking about physicality, and then he straight up said, like, if we had 5 better people, we'd play them.
Yeah.
I just don't like. There's stuff that he says in his press conference where I'm like, bro, like, are you the leader of this team? Or are you a baby child who doesn't want to take any responsibility? You recruited them. You brought the players in. If they're not ready to play, then isn't that somewhat on you? There are just certain things with Brian Kelly that just tick me off. So
yeah, in that quote, he's talking about the offensive line, and look, there's something to be said for. He's saying that the 5 best guys are out there, and so people questioning about should someone else be out there, whatever. And I don't think he worded that great, and that feeds right into your point. The offensive line dynamic in particular, and we've talked about this a few different times, but that was the area for me going into this season that I had the biggest question mark. And the read on his confidence level in the offensive line going into the season was that he was pretty confident. He thought it had a chance to be a really good group. And so when you juxtapose just what he was saying about that group going into the season versus where they are now, performance wise, and his comments following some of these games, it's understandably frustrating for a lot of fans. And I mean, I don't know what you want him to say going into the season necessarily. Like, he's probably trying to help those young guys build some confidence.
We're probably going to give up a lot of sacks this year. So.
Right. And like, he's trying to be confident in them, and hopefully them have some confidence in themselves as a young group coming together for the first time. But, regardless of what he says on Saturday nights or Monday midday or Thursday evenings or whatever, the performance that we're seeing in the 4 quarters of action on Saturdays has been tough. And, I think those dudes are battling and they're trying, but it has not worked out to what it needs to be. And there's probably something to be said for being overmatched in some spots. There's probably a lot to be said for the coaching piece of it all. But this Saturday night, that's the thing that worries me more than Marcel Reed or any other piece of this, is help establish some kind of running game with more consistency than just one big run in the 4th quarter and feeling like that padded your stats effectively to call it an effective running game, and keep your banged up as hell quarterback upright for 4 quarters and not give up sacks. And so I'm worried, man.
So does that, and I was going to ask you this, and maybe you just answered it. What does LSU need to do to win this game? Because I do think, on LSU side is being at home and being at night. That's going to be a hell of an environment, and a hell of a place to play for Texas A&M. They can win this game. But what do they need to do to make that a reality? And it might be the 2 things you just said. So if that's what it is, that's what it is.
And the frustrating part, and the part why, spoiler alert, I'm not going to pick LSU to win this game, is because all of the things that we're about to talk about are things that 7 weeks into this game, into this season, have been the same frustrations for the most part, almost week in and week out. The offensive line has struggled. They have struggled to protect Nuss, which compounds, and struggled to establish a running game, which also compounds the whole passing game dynamic, and a banged up quarterback, and you're trying to get the ball downfield as effectively as you did last year and having trouble. But there's all these other pieces that all interconnect, and none of it's going great to have you be as consistent and explosive of an offense as they were for most of last year and the last couple of years. And so all of that is frustrating. And when you're not able to hit as many big explosive play scores, and you're not able to finish drives in the red zone for whatever reasons, whether that be the inability to run the ball on some short yardage downs, or any other factors that are contributing to that, if you have to keep settling for 3 the way this LSU team has most of this year, that's not going to win you a lot of SEC football games, and certainly not against a top 5 ranked team in the country. And then the flip side, you mentioned containing Marcel Reed, a mobile quarterback, and doing so now with Whit Weeks out.
I was going to say, Whit Weeks out again?
He's out again. Bernard Gooden was listed as questionable, and that's a big one in the middle of that defensive front. So we'll see over the next couple of days what the read is on him as we get closer to game time, but that's not an ideal place to be, with 2 of your most impactful defensive players in the box out against this A&M team. I do think the defense bounces back and has a more positive and encouraging day against Reed and A&M than what we saw against Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt. I'm not saying they hold them to fewer points, because I think they're also just very different offenses, and Vandy eats a ton of clock and is slow with a lot of what they do. But I think just overall, I'm going to probably feel better about the LSU defensive performance and getting off the field on key downs and all of those things. But we'll see to what degree, and if it's enough to make up for what I'm worried about we may see or not see, depending on how you want to frame it, from the offense. With another important injury, Tyree Adams is also out, the left tackle, which does not help.
Oh man, that does not help at all. I am also going to go with Texas A&M here. I just am a pessimist now, so I'm.
It's just, I think that this defense has the ability to make some play, to be solid from start to finish, and make some really pivotal plays against Marcel Reed and this A&M offense. And I know there's been a lot made this week of Le'Veon Moss, the former Struma star, who is a running back at, the top running back at A&M. He's out this weekend, but Reuben Owens, another guy that played with us with the Bootlegger 7-on-7 program, has been great filling in. And when it's not against LSU, that's great to see. Love Reuben and his pops. But he's a friggin' handful. And so if LSU fans are going into this thing thinking, oh, Le'Veon's hurt, they're not going to be able to run the ball, Reuben is going to be a handful. But I think LSU can match up well against them and limit them more than maybe some of the other opponents have done so far. And then you just got to be able to match some of that and sustain some things and finish some things on offense. And unfortunately, as easy as that is to say, we're more than half the way through this season and we haven't seen it happen. And so it's hard to bet on it now happening against a team that is as hot as anybody in the country.
So I will be begrudgingly watching this, probably yelling a lot. So that's where my life is.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a rainy day on Saturday too, which is also concerning when you're not the team that is known for being able to run the ball more effectively, and all of those things. But I'm going to be walking to that stadium in the rain, trying to be cautiously optimistic and hoping I'm not walking back to my car at like 1 a.m, like a George Michael Bluth head down, Charlie Brown Christmas sad music playing.
All right. We'll see where it goes. We'll obviously go over this in the recap episode on Monday. All right. Next up, Ole Miss.
They can win, dude. And I'm not going to be surprised if they do, but I'm just not going in overly optimistic
No,
about it because of what we've seen for 7 weeks.
I would rather be wrong and LSU win than be right and Texas A&M win. That's how I feel about it. But
Sure. Yeah.
next up, Ole Miss at Oklahoma. This is going to be the 11 a.m. game on ABC. Another top 25 showdown, top 15 showdown. John Mateer's back. Brent Venables. Lane Kiffin has to go against another defensive kind of guru head coach 2 weeks in a row, from Kirby Smart just to Brent Venables. Last week, that Georgia team really made a comeback and kind of showed some of Chambliss's weaknesses. Does that happen again with this Oklahoma team and with a possible Heisman candidate and John Mateer leading them on the other side?
Yeah, if we see John Mateer like we saw early in the season and not like we saw a couple of weeks ago against Texas, where he just clearly wasn't all the way right yet, then I think Oklahoma wins. And if he's not quite himself still, then I think Ole Miss wins. And so I don't know. That's a cop out, and I'm gonna have to pick somebody.
But I didn't want to call you out on it, but I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I mean, I am gonna make a pick. That's how we do it. Whether we know or feel confident or not.
Would you like me to go first so you can just go with the opposite?
No, I'm gonna take Ole Miss to win. But this is another game that I just really don't know. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch unfold and could see go either way. I think there's going to be some big swings by each team. And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch as someone with no horse in the race or whatever. And fortunately, last week when I felt like I didn't know who to pick in any of the games, I went 6-1. So I guess Ole Miss is going to win.
Well, it looks good for me because I'm going with Ole Miss too. So last week I went 4-3. So it's really 50-50 at this point. All right. Next up is going to be McNeese at Nichols, 3 p.m. ESPN Plus if you're trying to watch that. A little Southland Conference. Both these teams need a win. 2-5 for McNeese, 1-6 for the Colonels. Seen kind of both of these teams pop in and out of the PODnas Pick 7 when they're maybe playing a little bit of bigger FBS opponents. But what is going to happen up in Thibodaux this weekend?
McNeese comes in off of a win. Nichols has been reeling a little bit. They won that huge game to start the season against your favorite Incarnate Word, and then haven't been able to get back on the right side of the win-loss column since then. And to start this season, my expectations jumped through the roof for the Colonels after that Incarnate Word win. And it just hasn't panned out quite the same way. But I think them coming back home, having the opportunity to
saying Pan or Pam,
having the opportunity to play, back in Guidry Stadium and have the home crowd there and all those things. I haven't looked at the weather for Thibodaux. Hopefully it plays out better for them there than what it looks like we're going to have in Tiger Stadium on Saturday night. I'm going to go with the home team. But you're absolutely right that both of these teams at this point, early still-ish in Southland play, could really use this as something to kind of build on heading into November.
Yeah, I'm going with Nichols just because they beat Incarnate Word.
So you're a fan for life.
I'm a fan for life. From all of the times where Incarnate Word has hurt me personally, I need to make sure that I give McNeese my support in this matter. Next up, or do you want to say anything else about this one?
Do you know where Incarnate Word is? I assume we've talked about it before.
Hell.
Do you remember? Do you even know?
No, it's in hell.
Sure.
Yeah.
Michigan. Okay.
Yeah. Is it in Michigan? Good for them.
It's in San Antonio.
I'm glad that they have a place that they can call home. So, all right. Maybe say hi to Wimby next time that they're walking around. All right. You at number 18 USF at Memphis, 11 a.m. Also on ESPN2. This one's big in the American conference. And kind of big for Tulane. You kind of want USF to get another loss in there. I don't know where to go with this. I am leaning towards Memphis because that's what I want to happen. But
Right.
tell me what you see in this game.
Yeah, I'm with you that I know I want Memphis to win for Tulane's sake. Tulane has the opportunity to play Memphis this regular season, and so if Memphis can hand South Florida another loss, fresh off of that Memphis loss, it just opens up a lot for Tulane, and obviously we'll have to get to the American Conference Championship at the end of November or into December either way, and so theoretically some of this can sort itself out, but I like the the bird in the hand of knowing that you can go beat Memphis in Memphis potentially at the beginning of November. Both these teams have been good overall. South Florida is obviously more tested. We talked about them a bunch at the beginning of the season with some of their wins against Power 4 competition. These teams are both, near the top of the conference in.
They're both putting up points.
Almost
I feel like this is going to be a shootout.
Well, but at the same time, they're both among the better defensive ranked teams in terms of statistics in the American too. That they're both top 5 in almost everything. They snatch interceptions. They get after opposing quarterbacks. They rack up yards and points. They hold opponents down. Some of that for South Florida defensively is skewed in some spots because they played some bigger schools. But I think South Florida is the team to beat. I hope that Memphis manages to upset them. If I'm picking brain, I'm going to take South Florida, I guess, to go win it. But
I'm the heart, so I'm picking Memphis. Let's go, baby. We know which one's going to be right. I'll let the viewers decide. All right. Next up is going to be Florida A&M at Southern. This one's 4 p.m. It's going to be on SWAC TV if you're trying to watch it. More importantly, Southern fired their head coach this week. Let's kind of go into that a little bit and maybe does this Southern team, which again, Florida A&M and Southern both not having the best of seasons. Florida A&M is 2-4, Southern 1-6. Does the head coach bump happen in college? In the NFL, head coach gets fired, and then new head coach comes in, and just the change in atmosphere kind of gives players like a I new sense of like, I'm going to go out there and kind of give it all I got because, and it's not necessarily the coach's at fault. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But I think that change of environment, that change in daily routine with someone that you had been with for a while can kind of propel you into a victory. And we see it a lot of times. Can that maybe be the case? And let's just kind of give a little bit more info on this firing from Southern.
Yeah. And you don't need to go back very far to see an example of what you're kind of hoping for Southern to finish the season, because Terrence Graves, who was just fired on Monday, when he took over as an interim coach 2 years ago, he immediately led the team to a win in the Bayou Classic. And so, there was an immediate spark there to go get a big win against Grambling a couple of years ago. Coach Graves had a really strong season last year with the team, but just off to a rough start this year, 1-6 so far. And so the Jags go ahead and make a move, and now Fred McNair will be the interim coach leading the team into this game. I think the ability to have this game be at home is big. I think the fact that Coach McNair has head coaching history on his resume of having been at Alcorn State years ago is big. And so everything that you said of the opportunity for just kind of a shake up and a spark is kind of what the optimist, the confident pick is here. If you're going for a Jaguars win, but it's got to be better on the field in terms of some execution things. As much as we just said about the teams in the American both being up near the top of the conference, Southern has been at the bottom of the conference in most statistical categories on both sides of the ball. And so no matter how juiced up you are, if that's kind of where it lands at the end of the game. Statistically, it's not going to win a whole lot of football games. I'm going to take Florida A&M to come in and get the win, unfortunately. But I think for me, one of the things to watch is Florida A&M hasn't been great offensively. And if Kelby Givens and the Jaguars defense can get after the Rattlers and be kind of disruptive, then you can get yourself into a little bit of a slugfest and have a chance to pull it out at home.
Yeah, and he's got 5 sacks on the year. So, I mean, that's definitely a possibility, and he's definitely a capable player to do that. For that reason, again, I'm the heart. I'm going with Southern, the head coach bump. Yeah, moving on. Next up, Jackson State at Grambling. This one is going to be in Las Vegas.
Vegas!
Let's go. 5 p.m. It is on HBC UGO.
It's just go. HBCU go is how you say Geo is go. That's how you spell that.
It's going to be on HBCU go. I know nothing about this game, so I'm going to lead to you. I am going to pick Grambling because I'm picking the Louisiana school. That's what we're going with. I just want to give you my, hardened analysis on this game. Grambling, colors I like, and also Vegas, you got to take a chance. And 3, Louisiana versus all y'all. Okay.
Yeah,
your turn.
I'm gonna continue being an asshole this week, I guess.
Kershaw.
I'm gonna pick Jackson State. I hope another pick where I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong a lot this week. I hope this is a week where you can catch up in the standings a little bit. Jackson State has been atop the SWAC, and now it's becoming kind of a theme. Both sides of the ball, they've been really effective, really efficient. Grambling has been solid, particularly defensively. They've been good. But I think there's just been a more complete team for the other Tigers out of Jackson State. And so going on the road in some unfamiliar territory, really looking forward to what the atmosphere and crowd looks like for this. We were talking about this before. It's obviously a long way from, SWAC regional territory. But it's kind of a cool destination game opportunity. Hopefully a lot of fans from both sides, and there's good alumni base all over the country for both of these schools, and hopefully a lot of folks, not just from out west, but all over the country, make the trip out there and make it a really fun game on Saturday. But I think Jackson State, with some of their efficiency and consistency on both sides of the ball, and particularly offensively, keeping drives alive and going to consistently score points, that they have enough to get by Grambling in this one.
We'll see what happens, and we'll update you on the recap show on Monday. Finally, we're going to go to the NFL. Bucks at Saints. This is going to be a 3 p.m. game on Fox. Bucks are going to win.
I don't know, man. Baker Mayfield's all worried about the Saints are dirty and all that, and says he doesn't like them because it's not the cleanest team to play and whatnot, as though the Bucks haven't perpetrated more of the dirty nonsense in this series through the years. Like, I don't know.
Well, yeah, the reason why I used to love watching this game was the Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Evans thing. Neither of those players will be playing in this game. So, and unfortunate, Mike Evans is going to break that streak of 1,000 yards seasons, which kind of sucks. That was a really cool thing. Outside of that, I mean, I think the Saints are going to do what they always do. They're going to make this game a little bit feisty, and then they're not going to have enough to kind of put it over the edge. And that's kind of been the Saints thing all season. I think that's kind of the best case scenario. Realistically looking at the Saints team is like, hey, you're not all the way, you're not all the way at the bottom. You're not the Jets where you look hapless, helpless. Like, they do look like a professional football team. They just look like they're missing a couple of key pieces that can't get them over the hump.
Yeah, I agree. I think they battle, but ultimately Tampa is one of the teams that I view as one of the top teams in the not just the division but the conference, and so I do think that more complete team pulls this thing out.
Yeah, and also just something to look out on. Both Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave are on the injury report, questionable. Olave with an Achilles and Kamara with an ankle. So just some fantasy stuff. If you're looking around at that, that may be something to keep an eye on. Also, remember Kendre Miller's already out on IR. So if you need a backup for Alvin Kamara, probably go with another player. I forget who's the other backup. I'm just blanking on the name right now. Can you remember? You don't remember? Okay, great.
I didn't even hear the beginning of what you were saying. I started trying to look up
who is the backup running back to Kamara now. It's Devin Neal.
And you said you said
Yeah,
other
yeah.
than Kendre.
Kendre Miller's on IR, unfortunately, after last week. So yeah, just something to keep an eye out on that. That is our PODnas Pick 7. Yeah, we'll let you know how we do. I have an opportunity to really catch up. Before we kind of get out of here, though, and before we mention the high school player of the week, the Pelicans did open up their season last night with a loss to Memphis. I watched most of this game. There's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of same old stuff. One thing that I really enjoyed was Jeremiah Fears. I'm ready to eat all the crow in the world. That man can ding ball. And for the most part, I thought Zion looked really well. I was actually really, really impressed with Jordan Poole.
Yeah.
There were also a couple Jordan Poole plays, but for the most part, I was kind of really impressed how Jordan Poole came out. And all the different kind of looks that this Pelicans team is going to be able to put out. I mean, even with Yves Missi, Zion, Trey, Herb, that starting five, I'm blanking on who was the guard that started. It's so long. It was Jordan Poole, but that starting five, that was such a cool look, and actually kind of gave me a lot of hope for the season. The thing with the Pelicans, once again, is closing out games, which they did not do in this one.
Yeah, I mean,
they led until like 3 minutes left. I know it was only one game, but it was kind of same old. From last year, where they were up, and then all of a sudden they let the team back in the fourth quarter, and last 3 or 4 minutes, it was kind of the Josh show. So,
well, they gave up like midway through the third. They gave up a huge run, and what I was going to say is like one game of 82, and so like every positive, every negative that we take, like, is just like one small step of a marathon of an NBA season. But I agree with everything you're saying about all those positives. Fears was a lot of fun to watch get into the lane and just be able to disrupt some things and get to the rack and finish. Which
Willie putting him in the last minute said a lot for where he is.
Yeah.
In that kind of situation, because it was the Pelicans were either clawing back from a small, like 4 to 7 point deficit, or they were trying to hold a lead, and they had him in. He had him in a lot during that time, like him and Jordan Poole. Like I said, there's a lot of really cool lineups that I feel like Willie Green can kind of lean on to get a small ball lineup to get some scoring. It's a very fast lineup between him, Poole, Zion, and Hawkins, like out there. Derek Queen even was on the boards a lot, and he was kind of making life a little bit miserable for Triple J, and that got him into foul trouble and got him into that last foul. There was a lot of positives to take away from this. Being one game at 82, like you said.
Yeah, and for Fears, the biggest thing is the whole like meme quality of his jersey and zero fears and all that. Like, he very much looks comfortable, confident, all those things. In his first NBA game, he was not shy about going at Ja or anyone else on the court and just looked the part. And so, yeah, not surprising after watching the first 3 quarters of that game that Willie would have that confidence in him to keep him in down the stretch, but definitely says a lot about just where he is as a guy just starting out his NBA career. And then the flip side, So I mentioned and emphasize him finishing at the rack because that wasn't something that the Pels as a team were great at. And there were stretches in sparking that big Memphis run where it seemed like the Pels were attacking and you were liking that they were getting to the rim. But then whether it be Jaren Jackson or, I mean, it wasn't just him. It was a variety of Grizzlies that were able to kind of disrupt some things and then the Pels not be able to finish. And then transition gets out going for the Grizzlies. The Pels are kind of able to initially get back, but then once they got put in rotation, then they were giving up lanes to the basket. And so kind of that secondary transition was becoming a killer. And that was really frustrating. And then obviously, I mean, a big story coming out of this will just be like, how is Messi injury wise after going down late in that game? Because him and his athleticism as a big man is a nice piece of what you were saying with just the versatility of rotations and you know, lineups that you can put out there. And with Looney already injured, you know, just starting this season in a bad spot with injuries to the bigs is a little bit concerning. So hopefully it's not major for Eves.
One thing I would really like to see from this Pelicans thing, and I think one thing that they did a really good job getting to the rim and a couple times getting those baskets, but there were a multitude of times in this game where they drove in, defense kind of collapsed on them, and there were Trey Murphy out in the corner, Herb Jones, who'd been kind of hot from three, out in the corner. You know, I already said, Jordan Hawkins, Jordan Poole, getting into the lane and kicking out for that three is, I think, something that I would love to see from this Pelican teams just a little bit more, because I felt like it did get a little bit predictable and that defense from Memphis was able to kind of crash in and make that shot difficult or get a turnover on Zion. And maybe if a half second before you look for that kick out, pass to the corner, get one of the easiest 3-pointers in the game, that helps build that lead. Would love to kind of see that more. And, you know, I'm not a smart person, and all the Pelican staff is probably much smarter than me. And I would hope to see that that's something that they're kind of working on after just one game. Obviously, game plans are going to change from game to game, but you know, that was my biggest takeaway of something I was yearning for, I guess.
Yeah, and look, you're not smart, and the Pels staff is probably smarter.
I just said that.
But
Why are you beating me while I'm down?
But at the same time, it's pretty drive and kick and the ability to set up open threes by sucking the defense in is pretty simple stuff that is obviously effective.
Well, it was, but it felt like a lot of hero ball drives. It felt like Zion or Jeremiah or Jordan Poole or whoever would get in the lane, and I was like, I'm taking this no matter what. And I hate that mindset.
I agree with you, and I know, because I started with saying you're not smart, it feels like I'm attacking you, but I'm saying it's so easy a caveman could do it sort of energy. It's so obvious and simple, and there's a reason why. Are you calling me
a canceled TV show now? Wow.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Is that I think, despite what we're saying about, you know, maybe you not, you know, crushing a 36 ACT or whatever it was back in the day, that you're accurate and you see this, and I think
you're really Brian Kellying this whole conversation. I know what you're saying doesn't seem as mean as it should be, but every word that comes out of your mouth is meaner.
This is why I've had such great success in relationships.
And now you're taking that from me too. Let's get out of here. We're going to do the high school play of the week winner, Landon Johnson. Congratulations. It was probably the closest vote that we've had on there. So you guys, thank you for coming out and voting on the Instagram. Please give us a follow while you're out there as well. PODnas_LA. Jared, before I do the socials, we get out of here, do you have anything left for the people, or do you want to insult my intelligence again?
Can we do that for another 20? No.
If you want that's to, I'm going to edit it out.
It's obviously going to be another big weekend of football on both the high school and college levels. So looking forward to seeing what some of these outcomes are.
How many more weeks do we have of high school football?
This is week 8, so 3 more of the regular season, and then 5 weeks of playoffs, marching our way to the Dome in mid-December. A lot of these guys that we're watching making plays on the plays of the week are going to be teams that we're looking at, making some deep runs. We've obviously had Carr plays of the week. Madison Prep is a team I've been voting as a top 3A team all season long. And so we're going to have some great plays all the way through the end of that run.
If you guys see a play that should be the play of the week, send it over. LA versus all y'all, Twitter, Instagram, PODnas_LA. Slide in those DMs with what you think is going to be play of the week. You can also email, what is it? It's Louisiana versus all y'all at gmail.com.
Nailed it. You're
nice.
So smart.
Nice.
Look at you go.
Don't do that. Don't butter me up, Buttercup. We just said the socials. I'll say them one more time. LA versus all y'all, Twitter and Instagram, PODnas_LA. Go to the new website, LouisianaVersusAllYall.com. So much great stuff on there. Will you have any kind of like playoff preview for high school going up on the site? Did I just give you an idea?
Yeah, we will.
Oh, look at me.
Yeah, you're so wise. I had never considered a playoff preview before. That's cutting edge stuff you're coming up with there.
Also, if you're watching on YouTube, please like, share, comment. Helps us greatly. We appreciate you making us a part of your day, even though we're both idiots. And hey, that's all we got for you. PODnas.